Welcome to Speak to Tisha. Today, my special guest is Chris Bass. He is a radio talk show host with The Power of Voices, has another show called Baseline, and he's currently on WVON in Chicago. Chris, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm more than honored to be here, Tisha. Thank you for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Chris, listen, this is such a pleasure to have you on today, and I want to get our listeners to know you better. So first things first, I would like to ask you, how did you get involved and interested in radio and entertainment?
I was 6 years old, and I was listening to radio at the time. My mom and dad gave me one of those 1930 replica triangle-shaped radios that I was listening to various time of radio today. And what really compelled me was a radio station that aired old-time radio programs. And I listened to it, and it for some reason drew me into it because of the voices, the sound effects, the whole nine. And for me, using my imagination, I realized along the way, radio is classic theater of the mind. So whenever you're doing radio, you paint that picture for the person who's listening. And I was drawn to it immediately.
Oh my God, that is so cool, because you and I have a similar, interest when it comes to the radio and entertainment business. And I have to tell you, I can remember when I was younger, not that I'm going to age myself, but I can remember those shows coming across with those different shows and the personalities and the voices. I was so intrigued myself. Now, for youngsters who are coming up in the business as far as with radio, what is the message that you would like to convey to younger people who want to get into the radio show and pursue their dreams with radio? Because I know you have that power of voices, so how do you help others with that?
Well, I'm currently an instructor at Illinois Media School, where I teach talk radio. I just going into completing my 4th month. And the one thing I convey to them is embrace who you are.
Awesome.
Meaning that embrace your voice, embrace your unique personality, because the one thing that makes you different from everybody else is you. Mm-hmm. And once you feel comfortable in your own skin, scars and all, you're able to provide, I believe, a better personality-driven program. But you have to start from the beginning, which is you, and then galvanize your personality to make it unique.
Absolutely. And, you and I, we also know a common radio show host, EdTyll. I'm sure that you can talk about EdTyll. We can talk about EdTyll. He also is a consummate professional when it comes to radio, and I remember speaking with him about how he got involved. He's going to be on the show at another time, but Ed is just a wonderful cat. I love him so much. He's just really great. So he helped me get to where I am today. Now, as far as the community and the teaching and what you do to provide younger minds, do you feel that younger people today have a better opportunity to get involved with what their dreams are, or do you feel it was easier back in the day?
That's a very good question. For me, it was easy to speak for myself, because once I knew I wanted to do radio, everything kind of fell into place. So, for example, as a teenager, I would do stuff in my room. I'd take the records, and when we had records back then, and spin them back, as we call segueing, or queuing up your record before you start to speak, or you talk over the record. I didn't have the technical jargon for it. By the time I got to college, I got the jargon. So I was already doing it, just not knowing what the labels of what things to do, what things not to do. So for me, it was very, very easy. Today's younger generation has it easier because they get a laptop, computer, software, headphones, and microphone, and do it at home or wherever they do it from. Mm-hmm. And that provides you the catalyst and the platform to go into broadcasting. So, for example, a few of my students have podcasting sites and podcasting episodes, which is really kind of raw. What I like to provide is the streamlined professionalism of making what they do better from a professional end. So they have it way better than we did, technology-wise.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%, because I remember growing up and pursuing just radio. I don't know if you remember the Columbia School of Broadcasting. I do. I had to go and get my license with the Columbia School of Broadcasting. To today, I still have that little card that says you are licensed to be on radio. And I'm like, I don't even know, do they do that anymore, Chris?
They probably don't. I lost mine. I don't know where. I can't even tell you where I left mine at. Now, see, you went to that school. Here in Chicago, we have a school called Columbia College Chicago.
Okay.
Which at the time when I was going into radio, all of the big names that went to Columbia, that went through there, had a great stellar history. Case in point, one of our famous students is we look forward to is Pat Sajak.
Ah, there you go.
So Pat Sajak from Chicago went to Columbia and obviously made a great name for himself, and other local talents that were here that had went to Columbia and made great names for themselves in the industry. So it was a hotbed of producing talented broadcasters, which me and others went to pursue our dreams, and we did.
Exactly. That's so true. And I was so excited when I got that card in the mail. I was like, I finally did it. So, and my first job in radio was being a board operator for, it was for the race car shows that they would come on. And I was like, okay, well, is this what I went to school for? But I advanced and it was all good. Now, another thing I want to bring up, and I have to tell you, I did peruse your Facebook page and you posted this, it was so beautiful, a video of two little boys. One was black, one was white. They're running on the sidewalk to each other. They embrace each other. This really touched my heart to see this and made me realize that we should really embrace each other more often. Do you feel, and the question here is, at what point do you feel that we have lost that ability to really embrace each other and to accept one another?
I think that we lost the way when we start to mostly individualize ourselves, our communities, our way of life. Nothing wrong with that. I think what's happening along the way, Tisha, is that we have become pro our own and at times became anti everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that becomes a problem. We should be pro our own and not anti everybody else. We're probably more alike than different.
Yeah.
But that is a scary thing to certain people, because with certain people do have a form of elitism. I'm better than you. Religion sometimes, my God is bigger than your God. And that gets into more separation of us just having human spirit and just being human, period. And so the piece I put up there with the young boys running towards each other, obviously racism or separation is taught. They have no idea what this thing is. They have no idea what racism is. It's a learned behavior pattern.
Exactly.
And the fact that they're running towards each other, they love each other. In fact, the way that, toddlers run, they got that like bow-legged thing going. Because, and me right now as a grown man, I run like that. I got the bow-legged running thing going. I'm trying to keep up with them. I'll probably have to sit down and take my pills. Oh my God, but the fact it was very cute and very loving and very basic and very plain. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, it was just so much of the embodiment of what we could become.
Exactly. And you bring up such a good point, because I feel that, that the world that we live in, I feel that it's gotten complex and we've become very selfish, as you say.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we go about, because we do have a voice. I mean, you have a voice, I have a voice, EdTyll, other people in the business. We have a voice to perpetuate change. And my feeling is, how do we go about trying to make that change with so much negative that is going on in the world today, with so much that is being posted, especially on so many different social media platforms? How can we come together to perpetuate that change into a positive direction?
Not everybody's going to listen to what we say. Let's get it up front. Mm-hmm. But the ones who do, we've done our job. Okay, case in point, years ago, I'm in my neighborhood. I go to the local store, a little shopping, and there's some about 4 or 5 young men with their pants hanging down, or they call it sagging their pants. So it's like the summertime. And I said, let me ask you guys a question. All right, old head. Okay, fine. I just skipped past the old head part. That almost hurt my feelings. But I did say to them, why you have your pants down like that? Well, because, that's how we rock it. That's how a young crew rocking it. He's doing it. I said, yeah, but you do know where culture comes from, right? No, what are you talking about? I said, well, in prison, if a man wanted to, how do I say, entice another man, he would have his pants sagging to let him know he was inviting him for sex.
Wow.
Now, I left it on them like that. At least one of the 4 boys pulled his pants up.
That's great.
And I was like, okay, he got it. So if one listens to me as a group of others, I've done my job.
There you go. And that's a very good point to make, because a lot of our youth, they have this entitlement, that give me this, give me that, my hand's out for this. And do you feel that in the world that we live in, is that more prevalent in certain communities, cultures, or is it just all over the board?
I think it's all over the board. And of course you can't control what era you were born into. But I think the basic premise is simple. I'm learning this on the way being a talk radio instructor to the next generation of students. They wanted the same things that we wanted. The era is different. The heart is similar because they have a passion for what they do. They have a heart and desire for what they do. So that we can all get on the same accord from. And once we get on the same accord of that, you can listen or not. Everybody has free will. I have students in my class, for example, who show up and then they don't show up. But you have to pay the price for it because I have to grade you. But you have the right to listen to me or not. Now, my thing is, if you're going to listen to me, we're going to be working together. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I am no filter. I'm going to say it like it is. Because I want you to have the best knowledge going into an industry that's completely ego-driven.
Absolutely. You're so correct on that, because this is an industry that's definitely ego-driven. And I see on social media as well as in the news, there are certain parties that are treated way different. What I'm trying to say is that if you have the means and the wherewithal, you're treated very differently if you don't. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And we saw this case recently, Felicity Huffman, the actress, who had funded all this money to get her child into college, come to find out that she lied about it, the other celebrities that lied about it. And so she going to only serve 14 days in prison, if that. But there was an African-American mother who did the exact same thing and similar, changed her address so her child can, go to a different district, have a better education. She goes to jail for 5 years. That's
such an injustice.
Yes, it is.
That to me, and that's what where our voices are. How can we go about getting that injustice changed? Because yes, you bring a great point. Felicity Huffman, an actress, has tons of money. She really, if you think about it, bought her way from staying longer in prison because she had a slew of lawyers who she could well afford, and they went to bat for her. The other woman that you're speaking about, what did she have? Did she have a public defender? Did she have a good lawyer? Probably maybe the public defender way. But again, just because you changed your address, you have to spend 5 years. That to me is such a great travesty. And I really feel that people need to, I guess, protest on the sides that really matter, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure. Absolutely. And I don't want the audience to misconstrue what I'm saying. It's not about race. It is to a degree about race, but it's more about power and privilege. And
Absolutely.
if you have that privilege and you have the money and the finances and resources, you can get and do whatever you want. If you don't have that, you're going to be left out. You're going to be put to the curb, and we said before earlier about an injustice. So it's like they say in court. It's not about if you're guilty or not guilty. It's what you can prove.
Exactly. And I want to bring up this. You as an African American, I'm, white. If you had if you had a African American male that did the same thing with the means, they're an actor, they have the means, the wherewithal, and put them against Felicity Huffman, and you have I'm just trying to think of somebody out there like Denzel Washington. Do you think Denzel Washington would have gotten the same treatment as Felicity Huffman? Because I'm going to say that I don't think he would have. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. And again, we live in a society where people do still judge you by the color of your skin, or your religion, and it's a sad commentary, but we're living in an era where I think it's gotten more worse in a lot of areas, depending on how you look at it. It was worse back in the day, but now it's so, at one time it was subjective, now it's in your face again. So you don't want to repeat history points of the past. Police brutality, the whole nine. You have to be aware of your surroundings. And you're right. I mean, you put, say, Denzel Washington to the play. He's very popular, transcends race, obviously. But when it comes to a legal matter, then all of a sudden you're just African American or black. And that's the sad thing about it. People still go back to race. Case in point, and you also got to be careful because you may do it to yourself. Not to bring up old stuff or old news, but look at Bill Cosby. I was reading an article recently about Eddie Murphy doing this. He did an interview with Jerry Seinfeld, Comedians in Cars, that Jerry Seinfeld does a lot on Netflix. And he had Eddie Murphy on as a guest. And Eddie Murphy talked about how Bill Cosby used to berate him for his comedy act. And you see what Bill Cosby has become down the road with the women and everything else. And again, when you do these things to yourself, you have to remember that somebody is always watching you, no matter how popular or powerful you get. And that goes to be said of all of us. But when you break it down for the reality of the world that we live in, you have to just be careful. And you may be doing things of trying to help somebody. They take it the wrong way. You may say something, somebody gets offended. Case in point, another story that I was reading about, the actor Malik Yoba.
Yes.
He's been on New York Undercover and various other movies down the road. He was recently in Power, done some other movies. So he comes out saying that he likes transgender women. And the LGBTQ, and they add some more letters, the alphabet, IA. I have no idea, not to be disrespectful, but I gotta write this stuff. I gotta write it down.
I do too, because I don't even know what it is. It's like I got to come up with the times to figure out what is the QIA. Is there an EBF? If there's an XYZ, I mean, I need to come up with the time. So tell me a little bit about that. What happened?
Yeah, so Malik Yoba came out and said that he likes transgender women. He's gotten kind of backlash about that, saying there's other celebrities out there who are quote on the down low. And again, the reason I bring all this up is because people find ways to continue to separate. You may disagree with a person, does not mean you hate them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes with what people say, they may misconstrue it. The other thing is that, do you feel, Chris, that the world has just become overly sensitive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I see it every day. I mean, there's people that I am around and, oh my God, if you just tell them the sky is blue, I'm offended. Well, the sky really is blue, you know? I mean, Dave Chappelle, he talks about that. What do you think of his comedy routine?
Dave Chappelle is a comedic genius. And I don't use the word genius a lot because I think a lot of people use it because it makes them sound great. No, he is true to the art of being a stand-up comedian. And he makes you think. And
Absolutely.
even the point we mentioned earlier about are we too sensitive, even comedians are getting hacked because of them on stage saying they want to say, and I thought we had a First Amendment right. And you don't have to agree with it. But some of these people out here, they get offended by what somebody says. Okay, if you're doing a set and you're on stage and you're doing comedy, these are jokes.
Exactly.
These are not Roman philosophers of the day.
Right.
They're just right.
Right. Yeah, they're professional jokes. They're professional in their genre, and it's what they're trying to convey. And unfortunately, I mean, if you're going to a comedian, to a show, obviously they're going to say things that you may or may not like, and that's what makes it comedy. And I feel that even in our society, journalists, they really attack these comedians.
Yes, they do.
So
I would fight for any person who has the right to say what he or she wants to say. Once again, not to condone violence, not to say that some things hurt, but these are words that people choose carefully before being a professional comedian is concerned. But still, name me a country where you have the right to say what you want to say.
I can't name anything because it's only in this country. If we were to go, you bring up a great point. If we were to go to the Middle East or a foreign country or Europe, are we allowed to speak the way we speak here? I don't think so. I mean, I think that, we would be, our heads might be chopped off, or we would be in prison. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't realize. They think that other countries are better, and I see a lot of this happening in the world today. They think, oh, well, the way they live is so good and the way they're doing things is so good. I mean, and what I'm talking about is socialism. So how do you feel about that? I mean, me personally, I have to say that I've seen so many things happening with socialism. I don't really feel it would be a good fit for America.
No, we don't need that. The country that we are involved in has some bad history, some good history. Mm-hmm. And whether it was slavery or Declaration of Independence, we've had ebbs and flows. And we could take anything of any part of history and try to learn from it, especially not to repeat it. And the one thing we don't need is to repeat history, especially when it was bad for everybody involved. And of course, the stigma of racism and elitism and I have more money than you type of mentality. Yeah, we don't need that. Even though people today in today's society feel that way, that continues the separation, like I said earlier in the conversation, and we don't need that. We need to become, like I said before about being basic. Each one teach one. Mm-hmm. If you teach one person, it can galvanize them teaching somebody else.
Exactly.
And, it's just a matter of just, I think, keeping it basic. How can you love someone who can't love yourself first?
Bingo. There, you said it. You said it exactly. And if you don't have any, respect or love for yourself, how are you going to convey that to somebody else? My position is that if you are given an opportunity, something good happens to you, I myself love to pay it forward. I'm a big believer in that. And I find that when I do pay things forward, more good happens to me. Yes, I see some things that are not so good, but more often than not, the better is going to be coming to me if I decide and choose to pay it forward.
Correct, absolutely.
So that being said, give me an example of what inspires Chris.
Those very loaded questions. I like that. Let's see.
I asked those questions.
Look, being a host myself is fun being on the other side, so I completely enjoy it. I would have to say what inspires me is my family. Off the bat, my daughters, my mother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my nephew. Family first. I highly believe that. They inspire me. I also have to go with the fact that my current students at Old Media School teaching talk radio, they inspire me too because, I feel like at times, I'm the old man in summertime with the lawn. Get off my lawn, you kids. Type of thing. Waving my fist in the air. I don't know why people do that. Waving your fist in the air and not doing anything, but I guess it'd be some sort of gesture for the old man, get off my lawn, you kids movement.
My Lord.
But I find myself doing that when it came down to the future for me as a talk show host for talk radio. Jaded, I don't know if the next generation is going to do it properly, but now that I'm an instructor teaching talk radio, the future for talk radio, I believe, is in good hands. Not because of me, but I see the desire of the students wanting to do that.
Exactly.
They inspire me too.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really good when you're teaching young minds, it's not that you get into your ego and you're like, oh, I could mold this person to do what I want. These are fresh minds that are coming that are eager to learn. They want to soak up as much as they can like a sponge. And I really think that you have a great way of teaching them and inspiring them to, go into this profession, which is, I love it. I mean, me personally, I love it. You love it. It's very, very good. Now, you were talking about family, and I know you must be with a big family. What is the most funniest thing that has ever happened to you with your family?
Let's see. Family, are you talking about family or being married or just family as everybody else?
It could be anything. Could be married. It could be just, what funniest things, funny stories that you share.
Okay. with my stories and stuff like that.
It's a family show, but it's unscripted, unedited, and real conversation. It's about life.
Okay. This is not to offend people. I'm not using dirty words, but this is what happened.
Okay.
So my wife and myself went to a party, and we were invited by this couple to go like an after party, like 1 or 2 in the morning. And so I said, my wife was named Victoria. I said, Vic, you wanna go? She was like, yeah, let's go. So we went, and so we went to a hotel, private nightclub. I didn't know it existed. I've been in the city all my life. So we get there, and we're sitting there, and the guy and the gal sitting across from us, the guy has a key to give to the person serving our meals and drinks. Private stock of like aged cognac and cigars from Havana and everything else. There's all this high-end stuff. So the couple would lose themselves. We gotta go talk. We go right back. And so I smoke on the cigarette. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, Vic. It's like what? They want to have sex with us.
Oh my God, that is a gem.
I'm always the crazy one. Chris, you're crazy. No, problem. I read about this. What they do there, when the couple come up to us, usually the lady kind of gets the feel for us sexually, and then they take us upstairs and have sex with us. No. Chris, you're crazy. I'm like, all right, watch. Here comes coming back. So they come back. About 15 to 20 minutes in the conversation, the lady asked us about our sex life. And so I'm nudging my wife. I told you, but she wouldn't give me the beneficial, the satisfaction of the certain current situation. So I'm like, okay, well, we have a decent sex life, blah, blah, blah. They get up and we put it up. So we put it another time. And so I told my wife, I said, I see you think I'm lying.
Oh
so
my God.
Now she believes me.
Oh my God.
Then they come back again, and the guy was like, look, my girl and I were talking. Look, we take this party upstairs to our penthouse, blah, blah, blah. I said, don't do it. We got to go. The kids and the babysitter, we got to take off. Thanks for the cognac, the cigars, and the drinks and everything, we got to take off. And so we get in the truck, and we're going home. We're like 90 going north. We're like speeding to get home. And I look over at my wife. I said, I told you they want to give it us. She was like, you're right. I told you. And I was like, and I'm telling her, for the first time she admitted I was right about something.
That is a gem. I hope your wife really, oh my God. I hope she enjoys the fact that you shared that with me today. That's a gem.
Yes, it was one of those rare times. Of course, being married, the husband is always wrong.
Of course.
In this situation. Yeah, I know. I didn't go to the Playboy. Somebody give me a memo on that. I didn't know until I got married. But when I got married, I had to learn on-the-job training. I put it like that.
And the 2 words that you learned very well are, yes, dear, you're right,
yes,
dear.
Yes, dear, and you're the boss.
Oh my God, that is too good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, as far as, I love that, Chris. That's a gem. That is a gem that's going to go down in the history books of the show for sure.
Oh, I'm very honored. Thank you.
So now, with you having the shows and with you getting out there with, what your profession is, and with the political arena as well as the world stage, what do you see 5 years from now? Where do you see the world going?
Another good question. I think that, from a political standpoint, it depends on who's in office, because he or she dictates the temperature of the nation and how they comport themselves and how professional they are, and if they really are genuinely concerned about the citizens in this country. So that's to be said in the future. I think what we can do as citizens is look out for each other. And that should become the main premise. No offense to the presidency or politicians, but everybody has their own agendas. And sometimes, if not careful, we can be used, and we have been used, to further other people's agendas and not our own. So we need to become more proactive, and I said before earlier conversation, Tisha, about being more pro our own. And if we get past it's going to take a lot of years, but if we get past the pettiness, I think social media has a lot to do with it, because you have these online arguments. She hates this, and I don't like her, and
exactly.
People are, that's further divides us. But we can get past that and look at are and what we are, we need to really hold hands. I know it's like a kumbaya moment, but I think it's very simple to just get back to basics.
Exactly. And I completely agree with you, because I myself, I'm very concerned of how, and where the direction of the country is going, no matter who is in the office of our country. It's that I feel that we've lost the learning, or I guess the respect factor. Yeah, say what you will about who's in office right now. He's very brash. He's just a businessman, and I feel that's the way he's run this country because he's a New Yorker. That's who he is. But bearing that in mind, I really hope that you're right. I hope that we can come together like those two little boys in the video without seeing so many biases and things of that nature, because it's time. It's time that we really get out there and bring ourselves together, hold hands, and embrace one another so that we can move on.
Correct, absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, Chris, I have to tell you that this has been a fantastic conversation with you today. I want you to tell our listeners how, where, and times where people can follow you, how they can find you.
Thank you so much, Tisha. The best way to contact me is to go to facebook.com and type in Chris Bass, CHRIS, B as in broadcasting, ASE. I started into this venture of talk radio and to the internet. I was the first Chris Bass. Now it's like 187 Chris Basses out there. Later for them, I am the original. You catch me on Facebook. I'm a dapper fellow with glasses and a vest suit. When you see my profile and a nice little hat, I think I'm pretty dapper for a man of my stature. Because you become Facebook friends with me, and all the information I have will be on that Facebook page at this time. So that's the best way to contact me.
Awesome. And you are very dapper. I will totally agree with you on that. That is awesome. And
it's like you and 5 other people agree, so I'll tell you.
No, it's all true, and I'll like you say, send the check in the mail. I'm only teasing.
But I can't take any more tricks. They bounced on me, so I can't do it.
Well, listen, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I hope you will return in the future. You can give us updates on projects, the school, everything else. Will you return on the show with us, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. I'm already there. Whenever you need me, I will be there for you. Thank you, Tisha.
All right. Well, thank you again. Chris Bass, to my listeners, thank you so much.
Hello, good people. I am Chris Bass, and you just listened to Speak to Tisha.
This segment is sponsored by Global Resources Organization, where innovation meets possibility. For more information, please visit www.globalresourcesorganization.com.